Hi, my name's Denise. Like Pastor said, I'm from Tennessee. I'm 24. I actually graduated the program in June, and I've had the privilege of being on staff ever since then. And I don't know why, but I'm really nervous. But you know, I used to struggle giving my testimony and would fight with God about it. And God spoke to my heart one day and He said, if you don't share your life and the truth of it, that it won't show the grace that I've poured on your life. He told me that the world, they need to hear that I saved to the uttermost. And that's exactly what's happened with me. Because see, the world will tell you that a drug addict can't change. And I'm here to tell you different. I was raised in a dysfunctional home, drug use, and you know, I was made to go to church on Sunday, but my home life was so different from what was being preached, it left me very confused. See, I had no relationship with the Word or the truth of God, so all my own ideas started to form at a young age. I'd always been a good student in school, advanced, cheerleading, top of my class. But that pain and that confusion and just that searching for that place that only God could fill, I started searching for it in other places. By middle school, I was a full-blown drug user. I was placed on these medicines for depression and anxiety and diagnosed with all these different disorders and told I would always have these problems, that I'd have to live with them, that there was no hope for me, that I would always be what I was. In all these strongholds and secular counseling, I've been in state's custody, group homes, mental hospitals. I've been in every secular program that there is. See, I've been told that I had this disease, that I'd inherited it, that I would have it the rest of my life, that there was no hope for me, that I would never change. And so juvenile detention turned into jail, and I was on my way to prison when I cried out to the Lord. And see, before I was always one to hold on to stuff. I wasn't really ready to surrender. If it wasn't drugs, it was relationships and immorality, stuff the world says okay and it's not. But when I was ready to make a full surrender, God, whatever it takes, if you'll do something with this mess I've made, I will serve you. Hallelujah. And see, even though my view of God was so different from the truth, He's seen my heart. And ever since I cried out to Him, I didn't have no relationship with Him or of the Word. The Bible used to be just stories on a page. It didn't make any sense to me. But you know that verse that says, draw nigh to God and He will draw nigh to you. That's something I stood on, and He's just revealed Himself to me, and He's broke down the strongholds, and He's restored the innocence that sin had taken. And see, those programs, they couldn't change my heart. And it's just the power of God and the Word that's transformed my life. I look back on the girl that came in and I don't even know who she is anymore. And I just have such a burden to go out and tell people what God's done for me, and that He's no respecter of persons, and just to be a light in this dark world and to just proclaim the gospel. And the verse that says it all for me, the NIV puts it this way, and it says, in my anguish I cried out to the Lord, and He answered me by setting me free. Thank you for hearing my testimony.
Well, my name is Amanda. I'm 27 years old. I'm from Mississippi, and God has done so much and been so faithful when I was so unfaithful, and pursued me even when I didn't want to be pursued. And I really understand the full magnitude of what He's done every time I see my parents, because I just see the brokenness in what I did to them. I was raised in a wonderful Christian home. I have two amazing parents who raised me in the fear and the admonition of the Lord. And I'm very thankful for that upbringing, because I know that God honored that. Because when I wandered away, He was faithful. He was planting seeds. And it was that upbringing that I remembered, hey, there is somebody that I can cry out to, rather than a program, rather than a secular program, rather than this vicious cycle of madness going on in my life. I can cry out to Jesus Christ, because you see, I was bound to drugs. I was bound to the drug Adderall. It started in high school. I was getting involved with the social scene because alcohol is socially acceptable. Prescription pain pills are socially acceptable in today's society. And sin looked awfully enticing, and it was dangling in front of my face, and I ran after it full force. And I got into these relationships, and they were both physically and verbally abusive, and so it stripped me of all self-worth. I would look in the mirror and hated who I saw, and so I treated myself with disrespect. I had no respect for myself. And when I got into college, it was a whole nother ball game. I had some physical limitations that I didn't know about at the time, so I leaned on these speedier type drugs like Adderall, cocaine, any type of methamphetamine I could put in my body. And it got to the point where I was taking 15 to 20 pills throughout the span of the day. And this was really, my body was just riddled with pain, and so I leaned on Oxycontin, hydrocodone, any sort of narcotic pain medication, and I became heavily addicted to Oxycontin. And I began to steal to support my habit. And needless to say, a lot comes with that sort of lifestyle, and I found myself incarcerated in a dirty, nasty jail cell where you wouldn't think the power of the gospel could get through, but let me tell you, it infiltrated the doors and right into my heart. And I'm so thankful because this peace that surpassed all understanding flooded my heart when I asked Jesus Christ just to do something with this ugly person I had become. Because I remember people like Teen Challenge would come to my church and they would speak to us, and I said, I'll never become that drug addict. But that's exactly what I became. But I'm so thankful that God stopped all that. And you know, it says in Romans 4:17 that He will call those things that are not as though they were. And when everybody else was saying that I was nothing but a drug addict, He said, no, I'm going to use her for my glory. I'm going to put her on a platform so she can tell people what I've done for her. Amen. And I'm so thankful for that. I don't take it very lightly at all. I get fired up when I talk about the Lord's goodness, what He's done for me, what He's done for these people standing behind me. I get very excited about it. I remember I called my dad while I was sitting in that jail cell, and I said, hey, this is your daughter, can you come get me? And he said, I don't have a daughter. But I'm so thankful that He has brought restoration into our family, so much so that He is doing a work in my family as well. I came through the doors of Teen Challenge with compromise still weighing on my heart, and I ran back out into the world and I did my own thing, but God is faithful and He pursued me back through the doors of Teen Challenge, and this time I was fully surrendered. And I'm so thankful that He is, I don't have to hold on to religious rituals today. I'm free. And I remember I was reading Isaiah, and the Lord said, whom shall I send? And He responded, send me, I'll go. And that's just been burning in my heart. Whatever you want me to do, God, I'll do it. If you want whatever you want from me, and that's it's just been, the gospel message has been like a fire shut up in my bones, and I grow weary until I share it with other people. And so I'm just so thankful that you pour into this ministry so it can pour out into broken lives. Thank you for hearing my testimony.
Hi everybody, my name is Rebecca. I'm 36 years old now. First time I came in the program was this month 9 years ago. When I was growing up, I grew up right here. This is my high school. I graduated from this high school. This is my church. I've grown up my whole life in this room. When I was 15, I decided to turn away from an amazing family. I have amazing parents who raised me to be a Christian, who love the Lord with all their heart. But at 15, I decided to become very rebellious. I started smoking cigarettes. By 16, I was being sexually immoral. By 18, I decided to leave my father's covering and go out into the world, and started working in the world of entertainment. And this was a perverted, disgusting world. But the money drew me in, and I made a lot of money, and that's all I cared about, until one day I looked in the mirror and I saw exactly what I had become. I had become exactly what Satan wanted me to, exactly what I was raised not to become. That little girl who used to sing Sunday school songs in church was on a stage living this disgusting, perverted life. And when I looked in the mirror, I was so sickened that one day somebody offered me a pill called ecstasy. I started taking that just so I would feel better about myself, and eventually I started selling it just so I could do it. And then one day someone decided to offer me cocaine. And for the next 7 years of my life, I stayed awake on cocaine. I was doing about an ounce of cocaine every 2 days by myself. In 2004, my family finally found out what was going on, and they put me in Teen Challenge. And when I walked through the doors of Teen Challenge for the first time, I was delivered from everything. I was delivered from cocaine, alcohol, every drug that I was using at that time, I was delivered. And I fell in love with Jesus, and it was all I needed. And when I left the program, I was in my word every single day when I woke up. I called it my survival kit. I would get up in the morning, get on my knees, and I would open my Bible and read my devotions, and that was the only way that I made it through every day. And it was my kit. It was my survival kit, my spiritual survival kit. And then in 2008, I met a wonderful man. I got married. I had a beautiful life. But as a lot of you know, we had it was difficult. And in 2012 of March, my husband was found dead, and it hurt everybody, including myself. I lost my best friend, I lost the man that I loved, and I lost myself, and I let go of God. I looked at God as who took it from me. I was angry, and I let go of his hand, and I decided to go my own way. I put my running shoes on, and I ran as far away from God as I possibly could, and this time I dove head first. I became a crack addict again. I became an alcoholic that blacked out constantly. I didn't want to feel anything, and I didn't feel anything until I started to sober up, and then I just got worse. And I was 100 times worse than I ever was during that 7 years when I was using cocaine, worse. And 3 weeks before I came back in a Teen Challenge, I did something that I thought I could never do to another human being. And that night I decided to take 150 Ultram pain medicine. I went down into the crack house that I was sitting in, and I just downed all these pills and tried to kill myself. And I told God, I was like, if you are still there, I'm already in hell, just let me go. I didn't want to live anymore. But he would not let me die. He sat there with me in that bathroom, and he kept saying no. He kept waking me up. I was blacking out over and over and over, but then I would feel him just wake me up and say, I'm not done with you yet. This is not your time. And then I ended up going through so much. I ended up in jail 2 times, and then I ended up at a house. I sobered up for 2 days, called my parents, said, come get me, take me back to Teen Challenge. And they came and got me. My dad hardly gave me 20 minutes to get ready. He was just like, let's go, let's get back over there. And when I came back, this time I have been filled with the Holy Spirit more than I ever was before. And the amazement what I got when I got there to find out that everyone in this program was praying for me the whole time, people that I don't even know. We go out and work at Maranatha, and this lady that I work with knew who I was and knew that they were praying for me. And to know that this ministry stays with you after you leave like that is just an amazement to me, because if it weren't for this place, I would be dead on that floor right now. I know it. And this ministry amazes me every second, and I love God more than I have ever loved him. I am more content now than I ever have been in my whole life. I don't mind being in a room all by myself as long as I'm talking to my best friend again. He is my best friend. He always was, and I knew that I would always come back to him, but I was fighting so hard. But I just told my dad just now, I've taken my running shoes off. I am not running in from God anymore. I'm running to God, because he's the only one that can heal me after all that happened. Amen. Thank you so much for hearing.
My name is Jillian. I am 23 and I'm from Brighton, Michigan. For as long as I can remember, I've had this feeling, almost a vision, that someday I was going to be standing in front of a group of people with a microphone like I am today, and I was always confused, and I was like, what is that about? And I would tell all my friends, and they were like, that's weird. But I always just had a feeling. I was like, I'm going to someday be standing in front of a group of people. And ever since I gave my testimony the first time on Rally, that feeling or that vision has gone away. So I think that that was confirmation that I am definitely in God's will. Anyways, my sin life took over around 15. I started taking Adderall, which is methamphetamine. It's a speed. And I got really addicted to that. I wouldn't be able to go to school without it. I couldn't function without it. I would wake up every morning and take it. If I didn't have it, I wouldn't get out of bed. At 16, I started getting in legal trouble. I have so many alcohol charges. I don't even know how many I have anymore. My license is revoked. I was just getting in so much trouble. But I was like, well, I'm young, and someday I'll be in front of people with a microphone, so I'm fine. I don't need to worry about it right now, you know. I'll stop drinking someday, and I'll get off this Adderall, no big deal. I ended up in jail, I was only in there for 14 days, but it was the longest 14 days of my 23 years. I couldn't believe that I was in there, but that still didn't do anything to me. I continued to drink, and I continued to abuse the Adderall after I got out. I went to rehab shortly after jail, and when I got out, I once again went and got my medications, and I was going to a few different doctors and getting a few different medications, and I would take so much of it that I justified it by drinking. I would say, oh, I have to drink to go to bed, it's not a big deal, but then I started drinking when I woke up, and I started drinking all day long, and it got a hold of me really fast, and I just didn't know I was lost. And my parents tried to intervene a few times. When I was younger, they sent me on mission trips. I spent 3 months in Africa, and they really tried. They tried to get me to go to church with them, and I would say, oh yeah, I'll be up in the morning. I would never get up. Some days I wouldn't even leave my room. And one day my dad and my mom sat me down and they said, you know, we think you should go to Teen Challenge. And I was like, I'm not going to Teen Challenge, I'm not a teen, you know, I can do it by myself. And the next day I prayed about it, and I just had an overwhelming peace. I was like, well, I don't really have any options. I was stuck, I was dead, I wasn't living at all. And so I came to Teen Challenge that week, and I've been here only 4 months, and I don't even know that person anymore. I am completely changed. Yeah. The Lord has restored relationships with my family. Me and my dad weren't very close, and since I've been here, I've had the longest conversations that I've ever had with him in my life. We write. I'm starting to talk to my grandma now. It's just, everything is coming together, and the Lord has really been there for me, and I just can't wait to see where I'll be in 8 more months when I graduate. So thanks for listening to my testimony.
Hi, my name's Heather. I'm from Muskegon, Michigan, and I'm 28 years old. I just first want to say what a blessing it is to be here, standing in front of you today. About 5 months ago, I was so hopeless, just desperate and broken, sitting in a jail cell, just didn't know where my life was headed. When I was growing up, my parents divorced at a young age, and my mom worked really hard to support us 3 kids. My dad was caught up in his addiction, that he had to pain pills from some accidents that he incurred in his life. And my dad's love was just something that I always longed for. I always had this void in my heart and just never felt filled. And I went to church with my grandma and my neighbors, and I loved the Lord. I loved school. My sister was not in the same state of mind that I was in, and she teased me horribly, and I just never felt secure in myself. So I ended up changing my ways and tried to conform to the world, and followed my sister and her actions, and got caught up in drinking and different relationships. I was dated a lot of older guys, and took my high school time away from me. You know, I missed out on going to prom and stuff like that because I was in controlling relationships. You know, like I said, I just always had that void in my heart, and I tried to fill it any way that I could. At about 16, I moved in with my father, because things got too bad at home with my sister, and he introduced me to a pain pill called Oxycontin. And I didn't like the way that the pills made me feel. They made me feel sick, but I liked the way that my dad made me feel when I took them with him. You know, I was his baby girl again, and you know, he just made me feel wanted and loved like I'd always wanted from him. So I continued to take these pills, and I started missing school, and you know, just my body was sick all the time, so I went to the doctor to try to figure out what was wrong with me. And my doctor told me that I was addicted to these pain pills, you know, and I really didn't even know much about them. after that, I got off the pills, but it was always a struggle after that. I'd stay clean for a little while, but that meant staying away from my dad, and that was always hard for me. So just on and off after that, I just continued to use, and the addiction just got stronger. I ended up using IV heroin, which brought me in and out of rehabs, secular rehabs, and I'd stay clean for a little while. One time I even had about 2 years, but I never felt complete inside. I always felt empty. There was that void there. And so I always went back, and every time I went back to the drugs, I just fell harder and harder. I did things that I would just never imagine that I would do. I have 2 beautiful little girls, and I found myself, leaving my children to go out and to use drugs. And I ended up going in and out of jail, and like I said, in and out of rehab programs. I was diagnosed with bipolar, depression, anxiety, and was on all those medications, and just thought the world told me that I had a disease that I was never going to be able to get rid of, and I just felt broken and hopeless. But the last time that I was in jail, I thank God for being in jail that time, because I cried out to God, and I just asked Him, to help me, show me a different way, because like I said, I had gotten clean and sober several times, but I always fell back into using drugs and just deeper and deeper in sin. And God answered my prayers by sending, his name's John McKinnon. He's a pastor at Teen Challenge now. We went to the same high school together, and he was a drug addict just like I was, and he shared his hope and shared how he had got his life changed, by giving his life to Christ, and he's now a pastor at Teen Challenge. And I just thank God for His intervention in my life, and I just have so much hope today. That void in my heart has finally been filled. I wake up in the morning happy and excited about the day instead of dreading it and worrying about how I'm going to get my next fix. God has restored relationships in my life. He's restoring my mind. And I'm truly happy and blessed today. Thank you for hearing my testimony.
My name is Chris Johnstone. I'm from 47 years old, from Grand Ledge, Michigan. Growing up, I knew God, but I didn't have God in my heart. I attended church, but the only reason I attended church is I was made to go to church. In high school, I excelled in sports. I got offered to go play sports in college. I didn't take those offers. Instead, I lived a sinful life. Got into drinking. I used several drugs in high school and periodically after high school. Settled down for a little bit, got married, had an awesome job. I was working in law enforcement. And due to my sin life and the drinking problem that I did have, everything came to a screeching halt. Lost my family, lost my kids, lost my job. Due to the fact of losing my job, I became homeless. I was living off the streets. I was begging for money, begging for anything I could to get my alcohol and so forth. It was just a life that I never thought I'd live. It was a life of darkness. They say you can do anything through Christ who strengthens you. Today, He has given me the strength to actually stand up here and give you my testimony. Because before I came to Teen Challenge, I entered into a detox center. And when I went to that detox center, I was a .37 in alcohol, which is clinically dead or in a coma. In that detox center, I've got relatives here, and thank you, for prayers, answered prayers, and that's the thing, is answered prayers. I've got a gentleman here I went to high school with. I've known for 30 years. And it's just awesome, the prayers he's given me. And it's awesome to stand in front of all of you right now and give my testimony. Because again, it's through the faith of God and what He's done in everybody's lives here. It's just, it's amazing. And it's an amazing program. I graduate next week. And it's been a truly blessing. Everything was... And He's a God of restoration. Again, I have family. I have friends. It's not just friends. I have pastors. Pastor Sam, you've been a blessing through this whole year for me. Been on rally with pastors. Everything I've done. Pastor Sam's my best friend. I mean, he's totally awesome. Thank you very much, Pastor McLean. Awesome. Awesome what you do to this program and what you do for everybody here. It's just been an awesome blessing through this whole year. And I could go on and just take the whole time up, but I'm not going to. Again, I want to thank everybody here and what they do for this program. It's an awesome program, and if you know anybody out there struggling, addicted to anything, it doesn't have to be drugs or anything. It could be anything. It's an awesome program. Just give it a chance. Thank you very much for hearing my testimony.